Right, for more on the story, let's bring in our guest. Abdulla Banndar Al-Etaibi is an assistant professor in international affairs at Qatar University. He joins us live from Doha today. And in Riyadh, we have Abdulaziz Alghashian. He's a senior non-resident fellow at the Gulf International Forum. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us. Abdullah, I'll start with you. The perimeter of a deal has been agreed to. What does that mean?
Well, that's a good question, Anna. We're still at the early stages, and the first few hours of this announcement by President Trump, we're still not sure if the MOU is falling apart, and that's it. We need to start from the beginning and to focus more on the real deal, which is not only the navigation in the Strait of Hormuz, but also to focus on the nuclear deal. So it's still early to really see where we're going and where we're heading, basically, as a region and as a world, in a fight that both parties are still not actually lenient when it comes to their positions on Hormuz, for example. And we see that the Iranians are not easing their position. Therefore, I think the threat for a wider war and a wider conflict is not gone. It's still looming, Anna. But the thing is, we have now more time for the Iranians to cooperate with regional countries in order to come up with some sort of an arrangement with the Strait of Hormuz in order to get that diplomacy back on track.
Abdulaziz, can I ask you about the timing of this announcement? Donald Trump's announcement coming after the phone call from the Crown Prince. Why do you think Saudi Arabia made that call?
Well, firstly, thank you very much for having me, Anna. I think it is important because I think there is basically, in my opinion, a last-ditch effort to try to maintain what is any kind of sense of a ceasefire, any sense of stability. I think there is a real doubt that maybe the ceasefire is going to actually manifest. And I think, in my opinion, they are trying to prepare for another round of escalations. And in my opinion, also, I think they are trying to perhaps anticipate what may be the tit-for-tat sequencing of targets and attacks that are going to take place. So here, I think this is why there was profuse diplomacy with the United States, between Saudi Arabia and the United States, between the the Crown Prince and the Defense Minister, to really begin to ascertain maybe what are the actions that will take place, in addition with a great deal of diplomacy. This is also, in my opinion, trying to communicate to the region that Saudi Arabia seeks de-escalation, but it does not want to take responsibility for any kind of escalation. And what I would say is that while I think the Saudi ruling elite know that maybe there is a real chance of escalation, they want to put the brakes on this escalation. They want this escalation to be more controlled and more clear, and so they could deal with the situation as best as possible in a way that could really increase their security and security of the Gulf, really.
What is it you think, though, that shifted the needle here for the president, specifically coming from Saudi Arabia? We have seen other Gulf countries try to mediate this deal, try to get the parties back to the table, and certainly that phone call and then this announcement seems to have been enough for the president. What specifically do you think it was that Saudi was able to say to move him?
Well, I think they know how to speak to Donald Trump. This is, in my opinion. I think they know what to say to Donald Trump. And I think the fact that they appreciated having the defense minister being sent to the United States. And so this speaks to the ego of Donald Trump, which is something that I think the entire world is doing. They're speaking to that ego. But they also know that Donald Trump himself is someone that will say something today, and tomorrow he will say something different, and then the day after he will tweet something different. They know that there is no real stability when it comes to Donald Trump, but they are trying. They are doing this in a way that will mitigate the ramifications of any process. Now, the Saudis and other GCC states really do want stability. This is part of, basically, this is an existential question for them. You know, they are not profiting from war like what other actors in the region are profiting from war. And in my opinion, I think also this is just part of their approach of trying to have have a very unlinear approach by trying to work with the United States when it comes to their security, but also trying to mitigate ramifications from Iran and trying to maintain any kind of neighborliness as turbulent as it may be with Iran. So I think, in my opinion, it is the way they spoke with Donald Trump. But in my opinion, also, it's just going to be a matter of time, maybe till we see another escalation. And basically, the Saudis are not waiting for this ceasefire to fall down again. I think they're just preparing for the worst case scenarios.
Okay. Abdullah, can I ask you then, because the Gulf and the world was promised, when we talk about Donald Trump's messaging that Abdulaziz referred to there, the world was promised by Donald Trump a very swift and decisive victory, that America would come in, tidy this up, and away it would go again. Have Gulf countries shifted their perspective now because of where this has led to, an entrenched warfare with no end in sight and neither party willing to move or win?
I mean, that's the difficult position that the GCC and the regional countries are in. They basically want this to come to an end. They want to go back to stability in the region, because stability is bringing prosperity and peace to the whole region. But when it comes to the positions of both parties, they are not actually going easy with their positions and with their demands. And this is what puts the region under lots of pressure, especially in the past few weeks, when we saw daily American strikes around Strait of Hormuz to disable Iranians' ability to control navigation, where Iran actually just responded by attacking regional countries and not even attacking Israel that launched the war in the first place. So this is put the region at lots of risk, and this is making the region maybe moving to different directions. We saw that the GCC Jordanian statement of responding to Iranian attacks individually or collectively, and we saw the Saudis took the initiatives to have a defensive strikes against Iranian proxies in Iraq. This is changing a bit of the calculations in the region, and for the Iranians and also for the proxies, that the region and the regional countries are not actually only supporting diplomacy with both parties, but they actually have the option of using hard power to defend themselves. And this is maybe could change some of the calculations for Iran, but it's still too early to see what are the implications of President Trump's declaration, statement, post, I don't know, and where this is going to take the region from. So are we back to diplomacy as easy as this, or are we having a little chance of finding a solution for navigation as a beginning, then to more issues in the future?
We shall see. Abdullah Banndar Al-Etaibi joining us from Doha, and in Riyadh, Abdulaziz Alghashian. Thank you both.